proud to be from the VI, a place of history like the African side, yeah. St. Thomas and St. John and St. Croix, nothing can come between us but the waters that divide, yeah. Even though we're just a few square miles, I travel around the world with Virgin Island pride, yeah. A lot of people still going through strife, and still we live a joyful life. That's why the place nice, so nice, so nice. Sweet, sweet St. Thomas nice, so nice, so nice. St. Croix full of pure vibes, so nice, so nice. St. John a real paradise, so nice, so nice. Hey, we got so much to lose, yet so much to prove. Hey, Virgin Island teachers never raise no fool. Mama sent me school. Hey, when it's difficult, we still a push through. No matter what the blessings of will continue. We are a people of great value. That's why we stick together like tamarind stew. Hey, remember Queen Mary, we make the fire burn, and Edward Blyden with the Africa vision. Remember St. John with the slave rebellion. General Butler say emancipation. That's why the place nice, so nice. Sweet, sweet St. Thomas nice, so nice, so nice. St. Croix full of pure vibes, so nice, so nice. St. John a real paradise, so nice, so nice. Hey, we got so much to prove, yet so much to lose. Hey, Virgin Island teachers never raise no fool. Mama sent me school. Yeah. St. Croix produced the band Midnight, and them the kind of roots make the fire ignite, yo. Julian Jackson was a champion in the ring, and now him three son them a do the same thing, yeah. Tim Duncan come from the VI, one of the greatest, and the world can see why, yeah. If you ever ask me where I'm from, born in the Virgin Island, and the whole place nice, so nice, so nice. Sweet, sweet St. Thomas nice, so nice, so nice. St. Croix full of pure vibes, so nice, so nice. St. John a real paradise, so nice, so nice. The Virgin Islands nice, so nice, so nice. Rock City sweet and nice, so nice, so nice. Twin City full of pure vibes, so nice, so nice. Love City a real paradise, so nice, so nice. Hey, I'm so proud to be from the VI, a place of history like the African side.
Talking about a land of beauty, we call it paradise. He wants to come down and check we down in the Virgin Isles. We are a share of problems, we know you have yours too. We're doing our best to solve them. We want to welcome you. Come feel our gentle breezes, marvel at the sandy shore. Our crystal sparkling waters, bet you can ask for more. St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, next door to the PDI. Filled up with fascination, your interest will satisfy. Some people they try to top us, but man they just cannot. I suggest you come and join us, because the VI hot. Hey. Put up your hand them high. Know that you from the VI. Wave your flags up in the sky. Show them we run this party. Show them we rule this step. Show them we have energy. Tired man will never get. VI, we from the VI. Oh. VI, we love the us, we leave these islands. All over the world we roam. When it comes to carnival time, we ready to come back home. To eat boiled fish and fungi, cherry and almonds too. To drink passion fruit and morbi, sea mustard name a few. We have to catch up the Juve, jump up behind Jamban. We have to be in the parade, jumping with just action. We have to swim Maidens Bay, Cookie Point and Vess up too. We have to visit St. John, Songway we have to do. St. Paul is our biggest beauty, historic sites galore. I suggest you come and join us, come down and take a tour. Shout it out, VI, put up your hand them high. Proud that you from the VI, wave the flags up in the sky. Show them we run this party, show them we rule this fete. Show them we have energy, tired man we'll never get. Packed up with friendly people, most will greet you with a smile. Wrapped up in our pride and culture, that is the Virgin Isles. We'll teach you some old traditions, that's what we'll be step up to. We'll show you an old plantation, more history old and new. Come down and spend your money, shopping is duty free. Purchase our rum and clothing, artwork and jewelry. Our day sale is really lovely, so many things to see. Snorkel, dive and swim our waters, fulfill your fantasy. Our islands are really special, they are our pride and joy. There's not a place more lovely, St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix. Up your hand them high, proud that you from the VI, wave your flags up in the sky. Show them we run this party, show them we rule this fete. Show them we have energy, tired we will never get.
Television, computer, for live streaming, or your nearest radio. It's now time to listen to Connecting the Dots.
People come, let we go. Turn up the radio. Turn it up. This is the people show. No matter where we go. Connecting people. We all love you. We are here for you. Can hear you. Connecting people. People come, let we go. Turn up the radio. Turn it up. This is the people show. No matter where we go. Connect the dots, family. Connect the dots, unity. Connect the dots, reunion. Connect the dots.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Good morning to all of you guys, all you folks out there on social media platforms. I mean, just throughout the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, and Water Island. I say good morning to each and every one of you. And, you know, while we're still in the Mother's Day spirit, yesterday was Mother's Day. I wish everyone enjoyed a happy Mother Day. And, of course, I guess Mother Day for me is should be every day of the year and just not one day in the year. So I say just happy Mother's Day to you, each and every one of you out there that are mothers. And this morning, you know, I invited a friend of mine here to the studio, and many of you that traverse around here probably ran into him and knows him. And
you know, while we're going to be discussing sports this morning, we're also going to be discussing social issues. And the person that I have here with me in the studio is none other than Mr. Carl Crump. And, you know, I'm going to let him dive a little bit into his history in a few minutes and talk about just where his family is rooted, where they came from, and the number of family members they probably have throughout the United States and all over the place. Because this guy is even related to the people that was occupying and I believe own Lavango, believe it or not. And family members stretched all the way into Tortola, into Antigua, believe it or not. And it's just really interesting. And, you know, the other day that he asked me, he wanted to write a book. And I gave him a title, and I hope he pays me for giving him the title. And it's the name of the book is going to be From Savannah to Savannah State University. And the reason I'm saying from Savannah to Savannah State University, Mr. Crump hails from the U.S. Virgin Islands. He actually grew up in Savannah, and his mother sent him away to the States. And one of the things I want to discuss with him, because this guy, many of you don't even know about him or know much of him, but he's an accomplished basketball player and have played among the likes of a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and you know, some of those Hall of Famers from years ago. And I just wanted to engage him because he's right here in St. Thomas, owns a home in St. Thomas. He's actually vested in the U.S. Virgin Islands once again and make his contributions in all types of different ways. And I have Mr. Crump here in the studio. But before I even start with that, I want to play a little clip from Muhammad Ali. Many of you know Muhammad Ali. You know that I'm a staunch sports enthusiast. I just enjoy sports. But I don't think that we have listened to what some of these figures have actually said during their careers, whether it was in interviews, whether it was entertaining in different veins, different facets. But the content of what they were saying, you know, there were things that Muhammad Ali actually said. Yes, he was the ultimate entertainer, but it was just amazing to hear some of the things that he actually said, and people started to pick up on it in the latter years and realize just how profound he was. He wasn't great because he was a great fighter. He was great because he was well-rounded. He was a great athlete, but he was actually a great orator. He was very good and articulate in just on the spot, on the cuff, being able to respond to different people that was actually interviewing him. And I just think that this man was remarkable. And I wanted to start out the tone this morning in just taking an excerpt of what Muhammad Ali had actually said in the past. I just thought that this was really interesting, how this guy was such an entertainer and how he was able to articulate himself in so many different ways.
I really care nothing about boxing. Boxing is a stepping stone just to introduce me to the audience. But my main fight is for freedom and equality, and this is what I plan to do. So number one comes freedom first for my people, equality, and this is what I plan to do after I'm through fighting. Because as you know, in this country, a black athlete or entertainer has a lot of influence. Some of them promote whiskey, some of them make movies, nude scenes with women, and some of them take their fame to promote maybe some type of whiskey or some rock and roll record. But I'd like to do all I can to uplift the people morally and spiritually, and as far as loving self and sticking together and helping self before expecting others to help them and respect them when they don't respect themselves. This is what I want to do. But when one man of popularity can let the world know the problem, he might lose a few dollars himself telling the truth, might lose his life, but he's helping millions. But if I kept my mouth shut just because I can make millions, and then this ain't doing nothing. So I just love the freedom and the flesh and blood of my people more so than I do the money.
Last night I had a dream. When I got to Africa, I had one hell of a rumble. I had to beat Tarzan's behind first for claiming to be the king in the jungle. For this fight, I've wrestled with alligators. I've tussled with a whale. I done handcuffed lightning and put thunder in jail. You know I'm bad. I have murdered a rock. I injured a stone. And I hospitalized a brick. I'm so bad I make medicine sick. I'm so fast, man, I can run through a hurricane and don't get wet. When George Foreman meets me, he'll pay his debt. I can drown a drink of water and kill a dead tree. Wait till you see Muhammad Ali.
Well, folks, I just wanted to share that little excerpt with you because I was just so amazed and impressed with Muhammad Ali. Yeah, Muhammad Ali over the years and what he actually represented because I think that Muhammad Ali actually represented a race and he probably actually carried a race on his back and risked his career, his reputation, and could have possibly even lost his life, you know. But talking about athletics, sports, and how it intertwines with academics, I have Mr. Carl Crump here in the studio with me, and I wanted to really get into just his career in particular and have him share with you and introduce himself really quick. Good morning, Mr. Crump.
Good morning.
And I'm not sure if the public could hear you, but you're a little distance away from the microphone, but that's okay. But I wanted to say good morning to you. Thank you for actually doing everything that you do because I know you participate in tennis down in the sub-base area. You sit with youngsters. You try to teach them, and I want to dive in to let's first allow you the opportunity to introduce yourself in a short caption, and then I'll go straight into asking you questions.
First of all, Mr. Dostar, I just want to thank you for having me. It's just a privilege to be here. My home, St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. As you mentioned earlier, I'm I guess, an original Savanero. I come out of Savon, 12 Gambagata, still have that house there, and I'm just proud of being part of, this island. My history is strange in a lot of ways. Firstly, I left the island at the age of 9. And before I left this island, I never touched a basketball, a baseball, a tennis ball, or any kind of ball. Okay, I just used to thank my mother so much, for taking me off this island. Because what she did, she had foresight. She saw that the future of her children wouldn't have been as bright if we would have stayed here. And my mother was a Dunlop. I'm related to, actually, there's a lot of fingers. Dunlops, the Hodges, the Shinneries, the DeWints, the LaFrancs. I can go on and on. But since returning to this island in I believe it was 1972, after graduating from college, I actually reunited with a lot of my family members. My late cousin, Alvin Dunlop, when I came back to St. Thomas, he said, Carl, you got to come back and get a piece of this rock. And, he was able to do that for me. And I said, okay, Alvin, I'll be back. And here I am. I had a pretty good college career at Savannah State. I was the all-time leading scorer in the history of Savannah State University and had my opportunities to go into professional basketball. I was in several basketball camps, but one thing I must say to a lot of you young athletes out there, if you get a basketball scholarship, don't think that you're just there to play basketball. First, you're there to get an education. That's more important. So I was able to come out of Savannah State University after 4 years with a college degree. One kid was asked the question by the coach. The coach asked him, why did you come to Savannah State? He said, I came here to play basketball. So the coach said, well, son, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but we don't offer any degrees in basketball. And with that, he understood that he had to do his schoolwork in order to get through. He said, you got two jobs here, one of being a student first and then basketball. If you can't do both, you're not going to be able to stay here at Savannah State University. And like I said, I left at the age of 9. My family moved to Harlem, New York. And before leaving here, I actually was cooped up in a small yard in Savannah and wasn't exposed to anything. And I was a bad child. I'm not afraid to say that. I was bad when I was here at that age.
Okay, and that's, I want to dive into the questions now, and I want to ask you, because you said something that I think was key, something that I kind of zeroed in on. You said that you left, you thank your mother for taking you out of the Virgin Islands. Now, not every youngster is going to be fortunate to be able to transition anywhere. You being in the Virgin Islands now, as an accomplished collegiate basketball player, and possibly could have gone to the pros, what kind of, based on your observation, what do you feel we can do in the Virgin Islands to try to hone the talent of those who have to stay in the Virgin Islands for whatever reason?
Well, you have to make connections. I mean, not too many people is going to come to the Virgin Islands to recruit athletes unless they're out there, unless they're exposed through some other kind of means. Take, for instance, Tim Duncan. People knew about Tim Duncan, because of what he did here, and plus he was tall. But a smaller person, unless you have some kind of connection, no one's going to come here to recruit you. And I'm thinking of a young lady who's now not probably, as a basketball person, I know she's the best big in women's college basketball. Her name is Aaliyah Boston. I met Aaliyah at the age of 12, and I had the privilege of working with her. And her sister, Aaliyah and Alexis. And when I first met her and started working with her, I knew she would wind up one day in the WNBA. I saw the talent at that point, at 12. And I saw where she had the burning desire to be the best she can be. But I knew that her future wasn't here. And of course, most of you Virgin Islanders that keeps up with basketball know her story.
Well, I've spoken about her several times on this program. In fact, I extended an invitation through the athletic director for South Carolina University to see if I could possibly interview her here on the radio, because she has some fans here in the Virgin Islands, and certainly people would have wanted to hear from her. But you see, Aaliyah as well was fortunate in being able to go to Boston, to go to school. Now, in terms of your observation here in the U.S. Virgin Islands, what do you feel we can do to really hone the talent of our young in preparing them to hit that next level or to reach that next level? Because bear in mind, we've had a lot of phenomenal players here coming out of Virgin Islands. And we're not just talking about Timmy Duncan. We're talking about Roger Bell. We're talking about my several friends that I have in Pee Wee Peterson, who I think you know. I could get into a lot of names. Even Arthur Solomon, your friend, was a phenomenal basketball player coming out of Virgin Islands, with Kimball, Holman Harley, Foreman, who's Sproul, and there's a lot of names. But when you look at the athletic program in the Virgin Islands, because I'm going to go from athletics to academics to even juvenile delinquency that we have in the Virgin Islands, and trying to somehow see the parallel or how one could improve the other. Now, you, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Crump, you were in fact what, assistant principal
Yes.
of a school.
Yes.
Tell us about being an assistant principal.
Well, it's a big responsibility. You know, you more or less run the building when the principal is not there, and you have all the responsibility of making sure everyone is doing what they're supposed to do. Not only the teachers, but the custodial staff,
Yeah.
the aides, and all the workers.
But one of the questions I wanted to ask you, do you feel that athletics played a major role among students who had that passion, for playing sports? Do you feel that it instilled discipline? Do you feel that it helped to help to shape some of them to take perhaps a different course?
Well, let me just say this. Basketball is responsible for my entire life. Without basketball, I wouldn't be sitting here right now talking to you. What happened with me was once I found basketball, my whole life changed, because I dedicated my whole life, all my time, all my energy to basketball. And I use basketball as an avenue to get me to where I am today. I developed the skills to allow me to be all-city high school basketball player and a Hall of Fame college
Okay,
player.
but just so the public could clearly understand what you're saying that had you not discovered basketball based on your environment or the influences, you could have taken a different road in your life.
Absolutely. 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 There's a lot of kids out here today. They have energy and they have skills, but they need direction. They need an adult, a responsible adult, to really point them in the right direction and bring that skill or talent out of them. I've done it for many, many athletes. I've sent a lot of kids to colleges. Some even wind up in the NBA. And that was my give back. I dedicated most of my life to children. And to this day, I'm always trying to help another child, because we see things in kids that other people don't see, not even their parent. And you can say I was the second father to a lot of children, because my people helped me and taught me how to play basketball, taught me, a lot of things about life, and I guess I was that disciple. I felt it was my job to continue the legacy and give back, and that's what I've been doing most of my life.
And you see, that's what I'm trying to bring out to you, because some people would say athletics is what it is and don't value athletics, not realizing that these sports programs or athletics could be a contributing factor to just shaping the mind of a young person, whether it's a female or a male. Athletics could be that discipline that they need in their life. And I think that it speaks volumes about you willing to come back and contribute, because what you're actually saying is that you serve as a mentor and even an advisor for many, many people. Many people, young people from even New York to the U.S. Virgin Islands. And there's a transition that is probably going to be taking place over the next few weeks, over the next few months, where some of the young talent we have in the Virgin Islands are going to have to start looking for schools throughout the United States to transition either in their junior year or even their senior year. Some of them might try to get out in a sophomore year, which I think it's the point of real development, as I would call it. Now, what would you suggest to parents in terms of their young ones who have talent, who wants to pursue even one day a professional career?
Well, let me just say this. And this was part of a speech that I made when I was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame at Savannah State University. It takes a village to raise a child. One parent, sometimes not two parents, can't really raise a child. Other people got to get involved with that child because sometimes other people see things in a child, the teachers, counselors, and community people that one person don't see. So collectively, a child needs these people in their life in order to move forward. If not sports, get a degree and become productive members of society. And without it, a lot of our kids or children don't line up in the right places. So myself is an example of how collectively a group of people took me in and helped me, showed me direction and guidance and channeled me in the right direction to become what I am today. I've had negativism in my life. I've had people to tell me, when you come out of high school, Carl, go in the Army. I said, okay, go in the Army. I said, that wasn't my choice. I want to play basketball. Now, my brother went, but I didn't go. But those people that was trying to guide me in that direction, I felt that wasn't the direction that I wanted to go in, and I didn't go. And to this day, I'm glad that I did.
Well, that's great to hear. And like I said, it's not everyone would have, that benefit or that privilege in being able to go abroad unless they have a family member, because we both know that in many of the respective states, there's a residency requirement. And aside from the residency requirement, some of the schools, the high schools, would require that you establish some kind of residency in that respective state. So there's a lot of dynamics to what takes place in being able to transition from the Virgin Islands to. I congratulate you on being inducted into the Savannah State University Hall of Fame, because I think that's an accomplishment in itself. Now, why did you, and I know we've had a discussion before, why did you choose to pursue business over basketball? Did it have anything to do with the salary at that time they were paying?
Oh yes. When I came out of college, I was in several professional camps, and it just didn't pan out for me. But at the time, I was I had a discotheque in New York City, and I was really making much more money than a lot of NBA and ABA players. So I chose to stay there for a while until I realized that, hey, I had to go get a job where I had health insurance. So you're
telling me that you choose to run a disco over going to professional basketball?
Yes.
Wow.
And I'm not angry. It worked out for me.
So then let me ask you this. Would you have preferred to play in modern day, and would your decision have been different in modern day?
Oh, of course.
Why is that?
Look at the money. I mean, when I try to get into the league, in the ABA, the minimum salary was $15,000 a year, and in the NBA, it was $18,000 a year. Guys like Earl Monroe and Walt Frazier, all they made their first contract was between maybe $45,000 a year. Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, those guys was only making about $100,000 a year, and that was tops. Today, these young kids, and they're very good.
But wasn't back then in those years, those salaries weren't considered to be significant? 15,000.
Back then, it was a lot of money. I'm gonna tell you why it seems to be a lot of money, because back then, teachers in the South was only making $3,000 a year.
Wow.
In New York, teachers was making $8,000 a year. I started my educational career in New York as a teacher at $10,000 a year, and that was with a BS, a Bachelor's of Science degree. And of course, if you go back to school, you get a master's, double master's, then your salaries will go up. But that was considered a decent salary back then.
Okay. Well, I mean, when you look at the salaries today, with a Garnett making over $100 million for, what was his contract, for 5 years?
Well, today these kids are millionaires before they play their first game.
Like Zion Williams.
Yeah, the endorsements.
That came. I think he was drafted by the Pelicans.
Yes.
I think Zion is making, in his rookie year, was making as much as $10 million. Isn't $10 million the cap for a rookie?
The money is ridiculous. I mean, these guys in their first professional career, they make more money than they can spend probably in their lifetime. But I did a paper recently about that.
Yeah.
And basically, what it is, you make the money and then you give it back. Lavishly. You go out there and you buy a $10 million house.
Mm-hmm.
You got 5 cars. Before you know it, you're giving the money back. You're not investing. And a lot of these young players, they learn the hard way. They wind up with no money because they take all their money, bad advice, and they wind up, with no money. But today,
but hasn't that been the culture? I mean, if you go back years, even into your era, I'm sure that you have colleagues that you played with that are essentially broke.
They broke it and broke. Because they made the wrong decisions.
That's sad.
It is sad, but the NBA players' retirement system is trying to help a lot of these professional athletes. We have a program that really reaches out to them and, try to help them and find them jobs, either going overseas, promoting basketball, or New York City, going to the camps, so they are getting some help, but a lot of them got regular jobs.
So as an educator, is it safe for me to conclude that you would champion or you would support an economic literacy program in the education system, and especially for athletes to be able to benefit from?
Oh, absolutely. Today, a lot of our athletes are very, very intelligent. And if they come from backgrounds where their parents are involved, educated, it's even better for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to make the money and keep the money and invest the money wisely. So I would say that it's gotten better. It's gotten better.
Yeah. Well, I know that over the years, when you read the history of some of these athletes, for example, Allen Iverson, who played for the Philadelphia 76ers. Allen, the claim was broke at one point, and that he had some retirement plan that he couldn't touch until he reached a certain age. So he went years struggling before that retirement plan actually kicked in. Are you familiar with that?
I'm very familiar with that. Allen Iverson spent a lot of money having fun, you know, with his friends, entourage. But Allen Iverson was never broke. Okay? People say he was broke, but he was never broke. He had money coming from different places. My son was able to introduce me to Allen Iverson because my son went to Hampton University.
Yeah.
And he told me about Iverson even before he became big. And, but, you know, he's doing all right now. He's doing all right. You know, people get false information, and I just wish him the best. I like the kid. He was one of my favorite players. But one thing I can say about Iverson, he worked hard.
Yeah.
He was a very, very dedicated, you know, basketball player. And, you know, people like Iverson, myself, we give ourselves a nickname. And it's no days off because we used to play basketball 7 days a week, you know.
And so I'm sure that you're familiar with that infamous comment that he made. Practice.
Practice?
You
talking about practice? Oh,
He talking about practice as though he never used to practice and he didn't feel that practice was important. And I think he was misunderstood. And a lot of people tried to come up with his defense, but it was too late. The damage was already done. I think the media picked it up and they floated it, they pounded it, and they probably polarized him to the point where a lot of people then looked at him as though he was arrogant and he felt that he didn't need to practice.
Well, trust me, I can tell you something. A lot of athletes practice while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Okay? Most of you, a lot of you know Nate Tiny Archibald, Hall of Famer, top 50 of all times, led the league, NBA in scoring and assists, and he became great because of practice. One night, my friend and I, we went to a track to run around the track trying to get in shape. And when we got there, we saw a person on the other side dribbling a basketball around the track. 11 o'clock at night. We said, wait a minute, who's that? We're going to wait till he come around. When he came around, it was Nate Tiny Archibald dribbling a basketball around the track as fast as he can. And I said, oh, man, isn't this something? So that's why he couldn't outrun most basketball players.
Well, that's why he probably had an edge.
Yes.
And I could switch sports here a second for you. A lot of people used to see Floyd Mayweather, who incidentally is coming back. You know, he has a fight coming up. I think it's June 6th with that YouTube sensation. I think his name is Logan Paul. He has a brother named Jake Paul. And they're supposed to be this YouTube sensation, and they have a lot of followers. These guys, in going into these celebrity matches and what's supposed to be exhibition matches that turn into real fighting. The one brother is supposed to be fighting Floyd Mayweather. But Floyd Mayweather's training regimen, this guy would go out to a club and hit the road 4 o'clock in the morning to run 10 miles. And a lot of people didn't know that. They would see him out to the clubs, but not realizing that before he reaches back home, he's on the road running on his way to his home, and it's practically 10 miles away from his home, and he ran that 10 miles. So it showed you that these guys still had a discipline about them, a commitment, and made the necessary sacrifices to be able to be successful in their respective sports. So I understand what you're saying, and I can relate to it. Now, let's come back to the U.S. Virgin Islands because, again, we're going to talk about you in academics, being a teacher, and being a resident of the Virgin Islands in terms of the infrastructure that you see here for our athletes, and how do you feel you can tie the athletics to the academics outside of a grade point average?
Well, let me just say this. I think that we have to promote academics more so than athletics.
Okay.
I once designed a figure where actually it was a bird with wings, the Falcons. And the Falcon had a book in one hand and a basketball in the other hand. If you're right-handed, that basketball was in your left hand. The book was in your right hand. And what's the message?
Well,
education is more important than basketball.
Yes.
Education first. And I tell all athletes.
And I support you. I agree on that.
Education first. Because if you can't read or write, you're going to be cheated out of your money. You know, you're not going to be able to read no contracts, no fine lines. You're not going to understand the math. And before you know it, you're in court trying to sue somebody for taking your money.
Yeah.
So I would stress education first. I would set a program so these kids can be educated. Very, very important. I come from a family where my late mother, Dorothy Dunlop, that little lady that came out of Savon, batted 1,000. Because every last one of us got more than one degree. In medicine, law, education, business. You know, we all came out of, we got college degrees. Some 2 degrees, some 3. But all of us have more than 1 degree. And, you know, we carved a very successful career for ourselves, you know, and, hey.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy to hear you say that, and you know, we've had some tremendous athletes in the Virgin Islands as they transition. You know, when I look at, for example, Holman Harley and what he's doing now in being, I think he's a agent. I believe he's a recruiter, and he's still very much, believe it or not, involved in the Virgin Islands in trying to help a lot of our young men transition to even other programs in the United States where they could help with the development. But whatever I can also tell you is that his focus is also on an institution that is strong in academics, because they don't only want the athlete to come there for their development in athletics or in a particular sport, but they want to develop them mentally as well, intellectually, for them to be able to be well-rounded, like you said. So I'm glad to hear what you're saying.
Well, you know, I work with Harley, and I worked his camp. If we're talking about the Bush Shelter Camp, the Great Adventure Camp.
Yeah. Bertha Bush Shelter School.
Yes.
Yeah.
I worked with him, and my kid was in that program. Very good program. And I'm going to tell you, it's not about just basketball. I saw where he had, it was mandatory. He used to bring in a chess master. And every last one of those kids in that camp had to learn how to play chess.
Yeah.
And they sat down there for an hour and a half, and they played chess, which was part of his program.
Yeah.
I mean, I brought Tiny Archibald to do his camp. And Tiny, he's a guy, when he do a camp, he have a signed picture of himself in action for every single kid in that camp. Every single kid leaves that camp with a signed, autographed, signed picture of Tiny Archibald. And that's the kind of giving back he does.
I see, and that's good to hear, because I'm sure that every coordinator, I'm going to call him a coordinator, or you want to say a promoter, because if he's having a camp, he's probably serving as both a coordinator and a promoter in having that camp. Now, it's just good to hear that a lot of them are trying to impose or implement different methods to get the kids to come around to both academic and the sports and have them fully integrated. And that's extremely important for the for the young people at the Virgin Islands or anywhere that they're able to integrate those two things. We're gonna take a commercial break just to recognize my sponsors, and then we're gonna come back and start opening up the lines for people to call and ask whatever questions they want to ask of you. And in between, I'll just ask you additional questions because I'm enjoying the discussion when we're talking about athletics, but we're able to integrate or consolidate them in saying that academics is important. And coming from an accomplished athlete from yourself, and us being able to discuss here even about Holman Harley and other people that come to our show as Bruley, that come here and give of themselves back to the community. I'm sure the parents that have been able to experience it themselves, interact with these folks, can relate to what we're saying and truly appreciate what they do. So we'll catch of the day. From the water to the pot to your mouth, everything is fresh at Catch of the Day, located on Cookie Point Beach. Enjoy some of your favorite seafood dishes: fresh catch, lobster, hank, and whelks when in season, as well as surf and turf. They cater to your wishes. While you sit and wait for your food, enjoy the friendly bar and bask in the ambience that is second to none. Enjoy the white sand, sun, and crystal blue water. We are sure the experience will be unique. Monday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Come and enjoy Catch of the Day on Cookie Point Beach. It's First Stop 24-hour gas and grocery store. Your number one convenience store, located across from Vitraco Park. You name it, and they have it. From electronic accessories to your favorite drinks. And from gas to groceries. You name it, and they have it. First Stop 24-hour gas and grocery, located across from Vitraco Park. Check it out, your favorite store for gas and grocery. Yes, Mr. Trump, Crump, I truly appreciate, and you notice I called you earlier, I said Trump. No, we don't want to call Trump name. We have some relief. A polarizing figure. I know Adi might be listening to me and don't agree with me, but all of us can't support one team, one candidate, one party. That's democracy after all. But I apologize for calling you anything outside of Crump.
Well, let me just say, I don't know.
We ain't getting into the politics right now, but
I don't know if Adi is listening, but my godmother, her name was Edith Hartley. She was my mother's best friend, and I believe Adi is related to her. Matter of fact, I know he's related to her. But and I also remember that Hartley did a special up at Luongo Key with my uncle, Rudolph DeWint. And I think they still might have some tapes, information here at the station about that.
Well, I think Rob can probably comment on whether or not the station archives some of those interviews. Maybe you might be able to go back and get a copy of that interview. But Rob? Yeah, he was asking, he said that there was an interview at Lavango, the island.
Yes.
And his family was the ones who actually owned Lavango.
Part of it. Yeah.
Part of Lavango Key.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm wondering if we would have in archives a copy of that interview that took place. Maybe we can ask Ari tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll find out if it's around.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
No problem.
Okay, I'm sure Mr. Crump would appreciate that.
And that's Crump, correct.
Yeah, not the other thing I called. I ain't repeating it.
Like we saying that,
we said it enough over the years. I mean, you realize how polarizing of a figure he was, and just on all the media outlet, they were subscribing to him and his antics, and would actually have him on the airwaves all the time. So he knew exactly what he was doing. After all, he came from The Apprentice and he was an entertainer. Exactly. So he knew exactly what to do.
Well, let's not even talk about him. Go back to sports.
Let's go back to our academics and sports, athletics.
Exactly.
So Mr. Crump, I just, like I said, I appreciate you coming here on the radio and having this discussion with us. You know, how long have you been back in the Virgin Islands? I know you own a home here, beautiful home, overlooking the whole town area. And I was up there and I was able to see how beautiful it is. How long have you been living here?
Well, actually, I started coming back to the Virgin Islands in, I came out of college in 1970, and I made my first trip back to the Virgin Islands in 1971.
Wow.
And I've been coming, when I came back in 71, my cousin Alvin Dunlop said, look, you got to come back and get a piece of this. And I took his advice, and I've been coming back every year, 2-3 times a year. As you know, as a teacher, you get breaks, and that was the Christmas break, summer vacation, winter recess. I was here, you know, even if it was for,
well, I think it's a
week,
good. I'm sure you realize that it was a good decision you made.
Oh, absolutely! It was one of the best decisions I made.
Well, let me ask you now about your family orientation. You know, I often say that the Virgin Islands is considered a melting pot. People from all different Caribbean islands, you name the island, you probably have a citizen here, you know, that nationality or from that island. And it's a melting pot. Now, I understand that your family is rooted in Antigua. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I used to frequent Antigua a lot. I used to spend a lot of time there by King Abstinet's little bar at the cricket stadium, and met a lot of people there that I knew personally and enjoyed cricket, which I think is perhaps the biggest spectator sport in the Caribbean. I don't want to even get into that discussion now. That will be discussed at a later date. But tell me about your family roots. Your grandfather was a Crump.
Yes.
How many kids did your grandfather have?
Well, I'm going to tell you, we had a reunion in Antigua. Let me just tell you how the pilgrimage. My dad, John Crump, left Antigua and moved to St. Thomas. My mother was from St. Thomas. My mother was Dunlop. And from St. Thomas, we went to New York. He joined the Army here, and then we went to New York. But we had a reunion in Antigua many years ago, and they had 62 Crumps on the program. 62, and they telling me that 62 was the number that got his last name, but he had more than 60. It was another dozen.
So now you understand why I asked you that question, because I know there's Crumps in Canada, there's Crumps in a lot of the different states. When I was in Antigua, they were telling me that there's a lot of Crumps around here. So I was asking you, how many kids did your grandfather, or the claim that he had? And I could only suspect that it's a lot of kids he had.
Yeah, on record, 62.
What?
on record, between.
That's impossible.
No, it's not. And between Antigua and Barbuda, because you know my grandfather was in the funeral business. He had the only hearse. He buried everybody on both islands.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and he was well known.
Yeah, he probably was well known by the community.
Yeah, well known.
But you realize Will Chamberlain once made a comment, okay, about dating and how many women that he dated. But I've never heard anyone say that anyone had 60-something kids. That's a lot of kids. And
all over the world, Fonzie.
Yeah. Well, then I have to say that maybe Antigua, 3/4 of the population is, I take my hat off to them. You know, but you guys are a big part of that population. But you know, going years back, and you mentioned Dunlop now. Dunlop, I remember as a kid hearing adults speaking about Dunlops in the police department and Dunlops throughout the Virgin Islands. And I believe many of them have perhaps migrated to different places, and that's why you don't hear the name Dunlop that often anymore.
Well, let me just say this. I'm in touch with most of the Dunlops that left here and went to the States.
Okay.
And I can say this, 99% of them very successful in the States.
Okay.
I just spoke to Alvin Dunlap yesterday.
Okay, Alvin Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
his son, yeah.
That's Alvin's son.
Right.
He's in Atlanta.
Yes, he is.
Him and Sherry Dunlop.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in touch with them. So I'm very familiar and I know what's going on with them.
So is the Dunlap an offspring of the Crump?
No.
So you got your mother and your father?
My mother was a Dunlop.
Okay.
And Real Dunlop, Alvin Dunlop, that's the Dunlop side. My father was a Crump from Antigua.
Okay. Well, folks, we have just a few more minutes left. I notice people was just probably listening to the discussion with you, Mr. Crump, and perhaps was just so in tune with the listening. And I did open up the lines for folks to be able to call. Missed a couple calls, but I'm sure that they enjoyed the discussion and you being able to share with us some of the things that you're sharing. And I'm just impressed that not only were you a basketball player, but you were able to elevate yourself to being assistant principal and a principal so you can understand the importance of academics and how important it is in even any person's future. I've always said education is a lifelong process. So you're basically learning every day, and especially if you want to learn.
Oh, absolutely. You learn and you got to listen. Because I'm always learning from other people, even today. I'm a listener.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to you because sometimes the information that you're given, it can be from a child.
Yeah.
Can be very important to you. You can take it and help somebody else with that information.
Yeah. I mean, at my age, I retired from the Senate. I didn't retire from politics, but I'm still here learning different things. Look at the technology. Rob came in and he said, I got to get something like this. But you see the platform that I handle for the live streaming, and I'm doing multiple things. And where I went, the source that I used to learn how to do a lot of this stuff, the school of YouTube. I went on YouTube and I learned to do different things to be able to, transmit, disseminate information to the public via even the internet, which has become one of the main sources of information for many people. I mean, and that, throughout the world. The internet is a phenomenon right now, and unfortunately, with cell phones and all of this stuff, we no longer have the personal interaction with people, and it has perhaps diminished relationships because now we relegate our communication to that of cellular phones, texting, not talking, some of us talking, but the communication has certainly changed over the years, and it has, diminished that personal interaction. And I don't know if we'll ever get it back because technology is what it is today, is dominating. I mean, you look at a little child or you look at adults, instead of using a newspaper when they go into the restroom or a book, they're using their cell phones. They're using their cell phones to do whatever they have to do, wherever they do in the house, washing dishes, any chores in the house. Your cell phone is right next to you. So technology is dominating the world, and we're probably going to be going into even a different stage shortly where what you call them holograms. I shared it on Facebook so people can see where technology is headed, where the world is headed. And I could only imagine in the year at least 2024, 2025, where we're going to be with some of that stuff, where hologram, you could transmit a signal and speak in several different languages in converting whatever language you're speaking in to communicate with others and receive likewise the same information from somebody that speaks a different language. Now, some of us would say that's scary, but that's just how the world is evolving. Technology is evolving every single day. And, you know, Mr. Crump, I saw you with your cell phone. Are you sending me pictures and stuff like that? And one of the things that I didn't share with the public really was even, I couldn't get it downloaded, but just to see you in your uniform as a basketball player. And I just started, you know, I saw something in particular for those people on Facebook. How many of you guys remember, what you call them again? The Converse basketball shoes. When Converse basketball shoes used to be, even in my early years, I remember Converse basketball shoes being the shoes that everybody wanted to wear because they either wanted to be like Dr. J or they wanted to be like one of the great basketball players, whether it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Will Chamberlain, or who it was. But I saw in that picture, Carl, with you in your Converse basketball shoes. Those were Converse, right?
Yeah, those were the shoe of choice. NBA wore them, ABA wore them. Everybody wore Converse. And from Converse, they went to Adidas.
Yeah.
And Nike came along way after, you know.
Yeah.
Way after, you know. So,
well, and we know, you know, you go through eras. I remember when, what you call them again? I forgot those shoes with the two little lines on it. Pro-Keds.
Yeah, we did Pro-Keds too.
Yeah, I remember when Pro-Keds was the big thing.
Yeah.
I had Pro-Keds in 2-3 different colors.
Oh, yeah.
Rob in there saying he as well. I remember Rob showing up to Studio 54 with his red Pro-Keds shoes to match his jacket.
Yeah, but you know, back in them days, a pair of Converse only cost $4. You know, with tax, maybe $5. But today's shit, you can't think about getting a pair of sneakers for under $100. Not a good pair.
Yeah. But I pulled out these old pictures so at least on the Facebook streaming, they could see you in your early days and how you moved in those times. And I mean, just so for you to transition the way that you transition, I just thought it's very encouraging, it's very enlightening for the young people out there. If any, you know, I have some young audiences out there as well who actually listen to my program from week to week, and I think some of them could use the mentorship coming from a person like yourself who's successful and giving them advice on the different roads to take on the collegiate level at least, and moving or transitioning over to the NBA or even in a foreign country. Because we have like Kevin Shepard in St. Croix who played in Iran, of all places, and he did a documentary and just wrote a book. And I wanted to commend him, you know, for the book that he wrote. I'm going to have him on this program maybe later on into the summer to speak about his book and certain quotes in there and some of the advice that he would give. But he's actually a coach on St. Croix and is doing a tremendous job to include where a couple young men from over here went over there to just be in a different environment and to see, you know, to be confronted with different levels of competition. But I'm happy to see that the athletics in some instances is still alive. And I hope that maybe someday that you yourself can be a part of developing or helping to develop the athletic programs here, because we have the racetrack at CHS that have portable mobile units, not mobile, what do you call them again? Portable units, right? Classrooms on the property, on the track for track and field. But that's where some of the athletes went to run to improve their endurance and stuff like that, that we're able to build this stuff back. So I look forward to you continuing to contribute here. I know you play tennis as well in Sub-Ace. And if the Commissioner of Sports Park and Recreation is listening, who I consider to be a friend, You need to fix that shed down there for those folks. The roof still is in bad condition. People sitting on the bleachers with the sun over their head. And you would hope that there's some kind of shade over that. It's right next door to Sports Park and Recreation. So that should have been fixed a long time ago. So, Carl, thank you for being on the program this morning. Connect the Dots want to thank you for being on the program and sharing with us, your history and what you have accomplished as a basketball player. Congratulations on being inducted into the Savannah State University Hall of Fame. I think you still hold records there. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know for how long, but,
Well, I'm sure if
records are there.
if I go visit Savannah State with you, I'll be treated like royalty. So they'll just assume I was a basketball player too.
Absolutely.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks
for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
It's been a pleasure and a privilege.
Okay, and to the listening audience, again, happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. Hope you enjoyed yesterday, but every day of the year is Mother's Day after all. So until next Monday, this is Adler Fonsi Donastu, your host of Connect the Dots. May you have a wonderful day and a productive week. God bless each and every one of you.
People come, let we go. Turn up the radio. Turn up. This is the people show. No matter where we go. Connect the dots, family. Connect the dots, unity. Connect the dots, for you and me. Connect the dots.
We want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in to Connecting the Dots as we look forward to hearing from you next Monday.
Connect.